today. Sorry, I'd asked Shayla to start the meeting, but I'm able to get in, so. Okay, the meeting is live, so.
All right, is the mayor on?
Yes, good morning. My laptop was a little hesitant this morning. She was sleeping. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chris, for offering to try to take over. Good morning, everybody. And here is our pre-agenda meeting for January 12th, I believe it is, if I'm right about that. Good morning, everybody. Do we have a roll call?
Mayor Betty Resch.
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga.
Present.
Commissioner Kim Stokes.
Here until 9:30.
Commissioner Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Normally I try to start with, Kim, you mentioned that you need to leave at 9:30.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything, so I'll ask you first. Do you have anything that you'd like to talk about whilst you're still here?
I don't, I'm going to defer to Jamie Brown if he feels like he needs to bring things to this meeting. I know that I had a call with Richard Pinsky yesterday just to figure out what is our plan for our legislative asks. So if we think that that's something that needs to be talked about in a group setting like this, I think that would be appropriate to discuss. But
okay,
I've deferred to Mr. Brown.
Okay, that's a very good idea, Jamie. Mr. Brown, how you doing this morning?
That is actually Commissioner
I bet
Stokes.
you have a lot to talk about.
I do. Commissioner Stokes actually took the words out of my mouth. I know you spoke with Pinsky yesterday. And as far as later on this month and who is going to be going up and everything else, I wanted to see if we could have that discussion this morning and get that all worked out.
I am going up for legislative committee as part of the Florida League of Cities for our week at the end of the month.
And I was scheduled to go up as a member of the other legislative committee, but I have a trial on Monday. So I spoke with Richard at great lengths yesterday. And he understands that it would make no sense for me to go for just one day. But he and I discussed other things that I can do to advance our causes. He also, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say Richard's fitting in appointments for me to work on behalf of the city in between the meetings that the League of City has for me. Sylvina sent him my schedule yesterday, so he can schedule me to get in front of all those who need to be reminded of how great Lake Worth Beach is.
Yeah, and all of our needs. So although I won't be there physically, I'm reaching out to them in other ways to speak with them personally, just not personally, but not in person. And that's again for the legislative committee, but also while we're up there for the ask of Lake Worth. He seems to have Richard seemed very confident in his grasp of our Jamie, why don't you just quickly review the two asks that we have so that everybody's on the same page?
Yeah, so one is the our golf course and the flooding issue and everything. We have the golf course, and the other one is the actual EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. That's part of our other facility, the new Public Works fleet facility. So in speaking with Richard yesterday, I guess the question would be if Madam Mayor, since you're unavailable to go up there for that, would it then revert to the Vice Mayor? And I'm not sure what your conversation was with Richard, Commissioner McVoy. If that's something you'd be willing to do.
I did talk with Richard at some length yesterday as well, and told him that I'm more than willing to come up if he thinks that's worthwhile and helpful. He talked about the possibility of perhaps one member of the commission going up and Mr. Liberty as well because of the EOC thing. So if it's the wish of folks for me to go, I will certainly do that.
So is Ed going to go? Do we know, Jamie?
We were just having this conversation yesterday. I will have a conversation with Ed, and I will get the exact dates. Because the other thing is Richard, based on who is going to be coming up there, he's going to be laying out the actual schedule. and who he's gonna be meeting with and when, so I'll have to get with him on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of window dressing. You go up, you meet, you greet, you take a photograph, shake your hand, and say thank you very much.
Yes,
I'm mailing things to the. As a matter of fact, one of my plans is to mail, because we have the golf course that we're asking for, to the folks that are going to be helping us on that committee. I am planning on having little chocolate golf balls sent up there with a letter, please help us, kind of a thing. So just, to get their attention. Richard he really didn't seem to think that when I spoke with him yesterday, he was nonplussed that I wouldn't be there. Sarah and I have the legislative committees, but he seemed to think that he had a good hand. He had dinner with Mike Caruso the other night. And he seems to think we're in pretty good, as good a shape as we can with our representatives. So, and I know the, travel arrangements have already been made for Sarah. I didn't do any because of that. So,
okay, so what I'll do is I'll get with Richard then, and then with Ed as well, and start laying some stuff out. And then we will reach out to you, Commissioner McVoy, and get your schedule and see what you're available to do.
Yeah. The other thing about it, when I look at the bills, they know that everyone's going up, and the bills, the hotel rooms are insanely expensive for these couple of days. It's hundreds of dollars for a night. So I've canceled my hotel bill. It's just one more thing we don't have to pay for. And I just, I wonder if it's worth it. But you guys do what you want to do.
That's
Yeah,
what
the
I
other
wanted to echo, is just that last year 4 of us went up there, and so when I talked to Richard Pinsky, that was my exact question. Does it help to have at least one elected with you? And my impression was the answer is yes. Do you need more than one? No. So I think in order to save the taxpayers money, and it really is only necessary to have one. It was also, like this last week was Palm Beach County Days, and we could have all gone up there for that, but they're not to hear legislative asks right now. So it wouldn't make any sense if our goal is really just to try to bring that money back to the city. So that's where I feel like it really we have to think about the timing and what works for scheduling. So I do think in general, if we're going to send one representative, the mayor is the face of the city, and if unavailable, then we go down the line. I think that makes sense in general. If Sarah's, I'm not sure if the different sessions he's already been booking for you, Commissioner Malega, are around this and that the schedule around the legislative asks, but and if that timing works for Ed as well. So I think just following up on some of those details. And
it's all in regards to what we have in for our ask for our appropriations.
Right. And also, I believe, I'm looking at my calendar, right, we do have a meeting that same time. We have our utilities meeting that on the 30th, on that Tuesday. So, where is it better to be, here or there? So I'll leave that up to you. But like he said to me yesterday, he said, Sarah's going to be there, one person. He feels good. We're not asking for crazy things. So he felt confident about that. So,
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
I was going to say, I know in speaking with Commissioner Diaz yesterday as well, I know he was planning on possibly
I see your
going
hand
up
up,
in February for the Everglades Coalition, but I see his hand is up, so he'll probably be addressing that.
Are we going to see you this morning or just hear you, Ronaldo? Good morning.
I'll turn on my camera. Let's see, I'm in my car, sorry.
We're going on vacation with your Hawaiian shirt.
Definitely not a vacation. On my way to a pediatrician thing, but a few things. I might have to go up to Tallahassee for other work issues on other days. But I'm kind of in the same thought. Like, I still need to have a longer conversation with Richard about this. But basically, if I'm going to be up there already in February, if I'm useful then, that'd be great. I'll already be lobbying for other stuff. But in terms of what we're asking for, I know he knows a lot about, at least for the golf course, and what I envisioned for that, because I was the one who kind of called him in to make that ask. And it's a concept that I have been talking to him for well over a year about doing this. and what the vision is for the golf course. So I think, this might not be the best, the pre-agenda meeting might not be the best time for it, but like, before we send vice mayor or whoever to go and ask for that, maybe we should have a moment where we can kind of sit down and like share those thoughts to make sure that everything's encapsulated and is going to be asked for, because there's a lot of things that it is a golf course, it is fixing the flooding issue, but this PD&E is so much more than that, and I just want to make sure that message gets passed on through our electeds.
Well, I think we know that Sarah's going, so I'm wondering if and it's not something we're going to vote on, and Glenn is here. It seems like it would, because it's something that the legislature is going to vote on. Perhaps you and Sarah could sit down before she goes up and fill her in a little bit more. Good morning, Glenn.
Yeah.
Morning.
Does that sound good, Ronaldo?
Yeah, I think that would be great because, you're absolutely right. It is expensive and it gets more and more every time we go up there. So we might as well, there's no reason for all of us to go up there, realistically. So I love it. It's a good plan.
It's a good excuse to put on my suit. But
Maybe instead of Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Malega speaking directly, maybe Jamie, as the manager, is aware of it. He can just fill in Commissioner Malega of what the issues are, just to avoid even the potential appearance.
Right.
I think it would be
great.
here to bring it up.
And
with
it'd be
all-
great to share with. Yeah, exactly. Just what I was gonna say. I think it'd be great to share with everyone, just so, because when we get questions from the public and whatnot, it'll be good because it's really important to. This is the first step of many. With this PD&E, then we can go for the real money and actually doing big things for our golf course, and it includes so much. It's the flooding and elevation fix. It's our clubhouse. It's the dock we've been promised for so long. It's so much potential that can be added in this, and I'm pretty excited. The preliminary meetings we had with Richard and Sam, and getting this idea together. I know it's been something that's been chatted about over the years, but it's time to bring it down and distill it into a solid plan where we can actually take action. So
Great.
I'm
Thanks for doing
confident.
that, Ronaldo. Thanks for working on that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we have a cart path that's crumbling into a pond, but we'll have to deal with that. Okay, so that's taken care of. Ronaldo, you'll make sure that Jamie knows so Jamie can talk to Sarah.
And then
Perfect.
Yeah.
just have one thing I wanted to add, which was that just to make sure that my understanding is correct, that we're not going to be actually putting in like what we want incorporated into the design, because this is more just we need money to hire someone to do the study and then let us know, and then there'll be many conversations after that will actually lead to, and that's part of the process. Right now it's kind of just maybe some of the what do we need the money for?
Right. So so PD&E, planning, design, engineering, and basically it's looking at the entire property and looking at what constraints we might have, but also looking at what the opportunity is and what the potential cost is. So there's certain things that we kind of know we're going to ask for, like elevation fixes on the south end of the golf course. And, that's part of in planning and engineering is figuring out how much earth needs to be moved, aka how expensive is it going to be. And it's the same for the clubhouse, but it's also, you're going in without blinders because you're looking, hopefully this PD&E will point out what is the absolute maximum opportunity that we can set our entire golf course property to. And it might not be golf, I think there's room there. I know there's a big ask in your district to have a playground, for example. And there is a little bit of area in that northwest corner of the golf course that maybe that's an appropriate use for it. So, we just don't know. It's kind of you try to go in with as much of a blank slate as possible just to see what we can do and see what potential we can meet.
Okay, great. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it's amazing because we have this amazing public golf course on the Intercoastal that needs, it could be, and here's the thing about it. Not only is it an amenity for our citizens, it's a moneymaker. And we could be making more money on the golf course if it was more improved. I'm hearing a lot about the golf course they just redid in West Palm, that it's so expensive now that they're losing some of their people, that we could catch that group. So I'm excited about working on it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you touched on something super important. Just one last thing. It is an economic driver, and if we brought in the lagoon into the design of the course and made it like a really beautiful, I mean, the potential is there. It's a huge property. It's right on the lagoon. It's not just for Lake Worth. It's going to be a destination for many people,
That's
well
what-
beyond Palm Beach County.
And especially with the Gulf Stream coming, that's going to be a whole new set of customers for the golf course. So thank you. Thank you for doing that work, Ronaldo.
Mayor,
Yeah,
Mr. Brown has his hand raised.
I know. I was about to call on him. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr.
Thank
Brown,
you.
I love him.
In kind of going back to what Commissioner Diaz was speaking about and wanting to kind of have this conversation, I know he has specific topics regarding this legislative acts and a discussion he would like to have. I wanted to throw out, we do have that workshop on January 22nd, which is mobility. There is no issue adding an item onto that workshop if that would be an appropriate time to have this discussion. And that also would coincide with, that's before, obviously, you guys be up in Tallahassee anyway. So if that is something you guys would be interested in, we could look at doing that on that workshop since it's already scheduled.
Okay, great. Anything
That's-
else, Kim? Oh, okay. Chris?
I just was going to say that Jamie's idea sounds like a good one, at least maybe a little bit of a presentation, so we're all sort of up to speed on the main points that are being thought about. Might be good.
Right.
I will
let's
get with
talk-
Commissioner Diaz, and then I'll have that actually added to an agenda, so it's officially on the agenda for that workshop.
Okay. And let's talk about the meeting on the 23rd. Why don't you explain, Jamie, to us what you all have in mind and just like how that's going to run, how that's going to go?
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up during city manager's comments at our commission meeting next Tuesday. But this is our, what's that?
You can repeat it for them, for the public when,
Oh, absolutely. So what we're looking at, obviously, this is our town hall that's taking place in District 3. What we're looking at doing for this one that's going to be a little departure from what we did last time when the town hall was held in District 2 was I would like to have staff, all of our directors from each department, actually sitting up front to address any issues. We'll kind of give an overview of the department, kind of what projects we have coming up this fiscal year, everything like that. So you have all staff there to answer any technical questions, any actual questions on projects, stuff going on. You guys will all be there in the front row in the crowd. But I feel that's a more efficient way to kind of run the town hall. And I've kind of talked to everyone individually about that, but it seems like this might be a good format to move forward with.
right, okay, and is it broadcast and recorded? No? Okay. So if you want to be there, you got to be there. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, God only knows what it's going to be like. I'm glad that you guys are going to be sitting up front wearing the bulletproof vest that you're going to borrow from the sheriff's office. Okay. Anything else, Kim?
No, that was all. And I really appreciate the willingness to not just stick with something because it's the way that it was always done. We started the town halls just we didn't discuss ahead of time all the details of them and said, let's just get it going. And it took us a while, and we had one in District 1, then it took us a while. We had one in District 2, learned along the way. And I think this is a good format that we're pursuing. If I remember correctly, at the last town hall, like a lot of the questions were ended up getting directed towards staff anyways, and they can actually speak objectively to the things that are happening in the city, which is a chance for us to hear what the residents are saying and for them to get kind of that objective view from the city. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
And I also wanted to add that, and that's a great point, because I wanted to bring this up during my comment next Tuesday, because there seems to be some confusion as to what these town halls actually are. And I just want to make sure everyone's clear that this is not for that particular district commissioner. The whole point was this is a city meeting for everyone in the city, not a particular district. But we were trying to get out of City Hall and actually get out into the community. And just having it at a different location. So it just kind of moves around the city, but it's still for the residents to come out and actually give us comments, give us concerns, something like that. But it's not for a particular district, which I think some people are, for some reason, feeling that's what it is. It's an entire city town hall. So I want to make sure I make that clear next Tuesday so we don't continue to get comments.
Thank you.
I appreciate that clarification because it was confusing even to me when we did the District 2 one. So yeah, the idea is simply to move it around geographically. Other than that, it has no particular connection to that district or that commissioner's district.
That is correct. And for the District 2 meeting, you didn't show up with any catering or anything. And I thought that fell on the commissioner for that district. There was zero food.
Zero food, geez.
But plenty of beer. No, just kidding. Just kidding. That's afterwards. Okay, well, I mean, listen, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm sure we all get, on a daily basis, I'm dealing with some citizen about some issue that I try to, help resolve for them. So this will be good. Okay, and so who has anything else? Sarah, Kim, I see you're about to leave. Have a great day. What else is going on? MLK is a big weekend for us this weekend. So anybody else have anything burning?
I do.
Okay,
Um,
Sarah, take it
So
away.
I don't know if everybody saw the pamphlets that were dropped off a couple weeks ago, Good Neighbor pamphlets that the Sustainability Department put together. It is useful as the NAPC liaison. I attend all the neighborhood meetings. I've been passing them out and having them say, hey, before you call code, bring this to your neighbor, educate. I was greatly disappointed when I asked for Creole and Spanish, and I was told that when the first round was printed, there was no money in budget for that. I was also disappointed that I know I never saw it before it went to press. I don't think it was ever presented to the commission as a whole for our input, but it is informative. What I would suggest is because I've been passing them out at neighborhood associations, I had requested more, and I received, or I should say Sylvina received an email back from William Waters, Director Waters, stating that the money would have to come out of the commission's budget for more printing. So I'm okay with that because it's all about educating the residents and the businesses. But what I'd like to do, if it's okay with everybody, is have a QR code put on the new ones that are printed that give a Spanish and Creole translation.
Good idea.
Does anybody have any input on that?
Sounds good. Chris,
Yeah,
were you
that
gonna?
should be a simple add-on if we printed that on like just a slip, and then we can tuck it into the pamphlets as it is.
But the new ones could
Well,
have it on.
if he's going to rerun the print, I thought maybe they could just add the QR code on the bottom of the front that says for Spanish and Creole on the front of the English ones, instead of us paying someone to translate and then hoping the translation goes right. If we could just, that way the QR code is ever changing if we need to update it.
And are you
Yeah.
are you thinking for the translation just Google Translate or something, or are you thinking that we actually deliberately translate it and check out the translation?
Oh, no, I think we deliberately have somebody translate it. And I mean, I have friends who are Creole speaking who could help with that. I know that we have Mr. Diaz on the dais that could help if we need it with Spanish. But I feel that it's a disservice that we're passing these out only in English. And a lot of the issues that we're having with code is just way of life things that people sometimes just don't know about, right? So to me, it just makes sense if we're going to go back to press, just putting a little QR code isn't a lot of work, and then making sure that the translation is correct. So when people do use the QR code, that it can be, like I said, it's a living document, right? But I guess my ask is, do we all mind chipping in from the commission's budget for the printing? Because we have a printing budget, I guess, on, I don't know what it is or how much it is, to offset the cost of more being printed.
I have no problem with that. I have no idea how much money is, but I think we certainly take a look at it to get it done. Yeah, I was a little disappointed too that we hadn't had a chance to look at it before it was printed. I've been asking for how to be a good landlord, how to be a good tenant in Lake Worth for quite some time, and it doesn't really, cover all those things. So, yeah, anybody else have any
The
comments
only,
about that?
I was gonna say, the only other thing I have is I'm trying to give input on the website, and the Excel spreadsheet that we're supposed to type into. On Monday, I sent a thing saying this is not letting me type in it to give response on the website, because I know we're trying to go live with the new one. So I know that we lost Ben. I hope Keith is still here, and maybe he can look into why we can't type on it.
Okay. Jamie, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I will speak with Keith right after this meeting and see what's going on, so I can send out another one if there's an issue with that spreadsheet. Also, this is kind of one of those items as I was coming in, it was already done. But I need to look into, I'm not quite sure where the commission budget paying for this came from. Also, you guys should have all saw the draft before it came out, and just like we do with Public Works with the solid waste and recycling and everything, when we put everything out, you need all 3 languages done at the same time. So when you release it, it's all at the same time. You're not releasing one before the other 2. And then you get this weird situation when someone asks for, well, do you have it in Creole? And you're like, not yet. So it needs to be a complete package before you roll it out in the first place. So again, another one of those things I'll be catching up on. But in the future, we'll have all of those languages pushed out all at the same time, because it's really not a complete package until that's done. So apologies for that.
You're forgiven. I have, speaking of code and stuff, I recently found out, it was confirmed that code enforcement inspections, like my rental inspections for my little rentals, they're not doing internal inspections. And I asked about it, and I would like to raise the question of having to start the internals again, because it's one thing to look at cracked windows and outside, but in terms of being a tenant, if your toilet's not working, or if there's no fire alarms, things like that, I think those are important life issues, and I think that it's been a little too easy for the landlords to not have to worry about that. I think I would like to see us going back into the actual residence. I think, yes, COVID, is still out there, but I think it's become, I think it's just better to wear a mask, figure something out. I believe other cities are doing internal inspections, and I would like to see that looked into about how we can get that started again.
100% agree. All it does is protect the residents at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of these folks, I mean, years ago, when I used to do the nighttime inspections, most of the time when we would knock on a door, like in an apartment complex, is what I'm thinking about Southeast Street. They were glad we weren't there to punish them. We were there to help, because they're afraid to report to their landlord that they're having a problem. So this gave us an opportunity to see what was going on, and we could make that work. So I would encourage us just taking a look at going back into the homes. And speaking as a landlord, I will gladly show the inside of my units. Anything else? Ronaldo? Oh, Chris?
Yeah, I was just gonna, before we left altogether, the QR code issue, one thought on the translations, and I think either Commissioner Malega or the mayor pointed out that some of this is sort of way of life issues. I'd like to encourage us to make sure that it's not just a straight translation, that there may be cultural issues that may want to adjust a little bit the language and get somebody who is familiar with the local community here and familiar with stuff to help give them a little bit more directed, hey, these are some things that, it'll be helpful to be aware of.
Yeah.
So both a cultural, literal language translation, but also some cultural sensitivity built into that, I think.
Yeah. I remember one of the issues that it seems like it's resolved itself over the years when you talk about lifestyle. When the folks started, when our demographic really started to change, one of the biggest complaints that we were getting is that people were hanging their wash over the bushes. They're, drying it and splaying it out over bushes. And that was a big thing. I'm talking 25 years ago. And you don't see that now as much, as people are becoming a little more adjusted to life here. So good idea. Anybody else?
I have sort of something. I kind of just want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, and this is going to be the most controversial thing we talk about today. I know it's
Oh my
there's
God.
people on both sides, but fireworks. So the one that I know I'm sure all of you did loads of text messages, emails, calls about fireworks over the holidays, and we can't say that it's no longer an issue for sure. I think the one that really stood out was Sean had like a video from the island looking back, and I was kind of blown away because I know how much fireworks cost, and I was just like, wow, that's a lot. But something was brought up to me by a neighbor that I thought was a really good point, which is, even if we can't, in full disclosure, I think we're probably super limited on what we can do. I don't know if Captain Bear's on, but I think it's more important. I think this ball is basically in in the state attorney's court, and I don't think they're ever willing. They're not going to want to prosecute any of these cases. Like, what can you do? You can maybe cite people or whatever, but I don't know what the answer is to that. But at the very least, one thing that was brought up by a neighbor was kind of like a public health thing, and it was a very legit thing. Even if we just put out a warning or something that air quality does go down. I do have in my house, this is probably going to be a surprise to no one. I have this thing that measures air quality on a continual basis. And it was really noticeable, especially during, Christmas, that the air quality inside my house, which is probably similar to yours, Mayor, is that no insulation, no AC, and it just, all that stuff came right in. And it was doubly compounded that over Christmas and New Year's, both me and Aldo had COVID. And so the breathing issues were a little bit exacerbated, especially in him being 5 months old. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I definitely would love to hear your thoughts and see if it's something that we take on or discuss.
That's a great thing to bring up. Here's what I mean. Yes, I mean, my email and texts were burning up. On New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and 4th of July, according to state statute, they're legal. Now, someone wrote to me and suggested, and maybe Glenn, I'm pointing at you, that something in that statute allows us to override those, maybe expand it, not contract it. And the one night, the New Year's Eve, all those things on the Intercoastal, they're over in 10 minutes. They're over in 15 minutes. What I found was the more complicated and issue that had, I think, the more effect on our breathing, our neighborhoods, was the constant setting off of fireworks by folks in their yards. Okay, the constant, I mean, right by me. I mean, there were a couple times my house shook from the size of the thing that they had sent off. It was a little scary, actually. So, and how do we approach that? Do we drive up to, it seems almost impossible. I mean, do the police drive up to somebody's house where they, if I call and say, okay, there's fireworks down the street, they're setting off fireworks down the street, and the cops get there 5 or 10 or 15 minutes later because they're busy with some crime, right? Okay, who shot off those fireworks? I mean, I believe, speaking of cultural, I think it's a cultural thing. I mean, as my community, as my little neighborhood has had more Hispanic, wonderful Hispanic neighbors, but I had friends from London here over the holidays, and they said they have a place in Spain, and they were like, in Spain, fireworks constantly. There's just always fireworks, something. So, I think it is, talking about addressing the lifestyle. Maybe that's one thing that we could address in terms of a lifestyle. I mean, I just have noticed over the last few years, never was like this. It was never like that. I mean, the air was foggy on New Year's Eve. And it wasn't from those, the people on the piers with their 15 minutes of fireworks. It started early that day, and it just continued all night until the next day. And it was, fortunately, my dogs are deaf, and I don't suffer from PTSD, but for a lot of people, it's very troubling. And they're looking for us to do something, and I'm as frustrated as you are, Ronaldo, about what can we actually do? And maybe that's just, education. Please, you can do it these 2 days, but these 3 days, but not anymore. But enforcement, like so many other things, the enforcement of it is very difficult, challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure it keeps our fire rescue busy too, because my understanding is that Trauma Hawk was just like a revolving door of, injured people that day.
Oh, really?
'Cause there's so many things, but I think the air quality, is a big one. And we're not the only ones who deal with this, right? There's so many communities who have the same issue. But I guess what it comes down to is, we got so many questions, concerns, texts, emails, calls that, I do want to make sure that this is something we at least like look into and make an attempt, and it's not, we're not ignoring those calls for help basically, because like I said, especially on Christmas, like the breathing issues with having a baby with COVID and having a smoky house, it was noticeable for
You don't
sure.
have air, you couldn't close the windows?
They're closed, but my house without insulation and with like the window AC units, it was just like it was creeping in. And I have this little tool. It's basically an air cleaner that continually measures air quality, and it's looking for things like smoke particles. And most of the time, our air quality in Lake Worth Beach is amazing. It's like literally 98, 99%, because of all the plants that we have. But it tanked. I think the lowest I saw it was, I forget what the metric is, but I saw it go down to like 40, 45%, which doesn't
mean,
happen. Like, even if you like, even if I burned something in the oven and opened the door, it wouldn't go down that low.
I
So,
mean, the good news about that is the next day it's cleared out. I mean, it's a
yeah,
short-term,
yeah,
problem. So that
yeah,
is
for
good
sure.
news. I think the noise and the complaint, I mean, the smoke was crazy, but the complaints that I'm getting are dogs and pets and people with PTSD issues, just 24 hours of constant barrage. So what do you suggest we do, Ronaldo?
Well, I can look into it
If
and
you're,
see what we're allowed to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the first step. I mean, honestly, like the response I had to people who were inquiring about it, I think there's so little, from my understanding, not just because of that statute that you brought up, Mayor, but I feel like there's very little we can do because of enforcement, and then how far do you take it? And like so many things like DUI and all these, and so many like of these misdemeanors and below, if you will. Uh, the limitation is like, well, the courts probably don't want us to do anything about it. I'm sure PBSO has thoughts about us sending all our deputies to those sort of things. So
Right.
we're limited. We're very much limited, and I think it's really important that the people who have these concerns maybe understand that. But we can see what we can do and take this matter as seriously and as best as we can.
Okay. Okay. I just looked at my own calendar and I realized that I have a client coming in 10 minutes. So I've only got like 5 or 7 more minutes before I have to go and get ready
Ma'am,
for that.
I had my hand up. I just want to interject. I
I'm
agree
sorry.
with you guys. The only thing I'm thinking that we as a city could do, in my area, once the fireworks go off for days, it's the debris that they don't clean up. And I say they being the
Another thing.
residents. So if we maybe as a city could say, you know what, we know this is happening. We can't come from it from the law enforcement side, but maybe we should come from it from the street sweeper side. Maybe for that entire time, we need to have the street sweepers out heavily, because the debris that goes down the drains and infiltrates our water system with gunpowder on it is more alarming to me than anything else. I cleaned up our alleyway like I normally do once a week the other day, and I found the red shrapnel paper all inside bushes, all along the curbing. And I know that, Jamie, we have 2 street sweepers. If we could just maybe say, okay, we know Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, 2 days before and 2 days after, we need our street sweepers just to be on the streets trying to clean up as much as possible. And really, again, education to the rest of the community. If you see that the drainage is full after these holidays, please just sweep it up. I mean, we've got to be a little more vigilant from whatever we can handle and we can control. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those insurmountable enforcement issues that how do you deal with it? And maybe get a message out to the community. I mean, however we get messages out to the community. It's
Like how to be a good neighbor.
how to be a good neighbor, I mean, that's just not what we do. We don't do that. We don't do that here. So, that might be helpful as well. I don't, people don't have an idea that that's, I mean, that it's not what we do, what one does here. But, and I'm saying that jokingly. Okay, anything else? I've got about 5 more minutes.
I too, I don't know whether you can hear, I can't figure out how to get the hand to go up. I don't, usually I see it.
There you go. Okay. We'll make believe your hands up, Chris. What's up?
Okay, and it says my video is stopped, which I don't know if that's
did.
true or not.
It
I
did.
can't figure that out either, but, I was out in California and I was getting calls and texts and emails. Apparently the air quality was really bad, and I had other people tell me, I don't know where they got the measurements, but they had air quality indexes that were, ridiculously low. And, there are people both with the PTSD and with air quality sensitivity. So I would appreciate, Glenn, if you can look in, and if Captain Bear is on, any thoughts that we have, at least, that we try to make it clear that this is only okay on certain days. And maybe, part of that, as Commissioner Diaz pointed out, part of that neighbor aspect on round 2 of our good neighbors thing, that we indicate, fireworks are fun for you, but they're not necessarily all that good for your neighbors. And here's a couple, some people have PTSD, some people have pets, some people have air quality issues, etc. Please be considerate and mindful.
Okay, I just got a text that my client has rescheduled, so I don't have to leave in 5 minutes. Okay, good thing to bring up, Ronaldo. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty intense.
Yeah. One of the things I responded to people, like, honestly, I see the writing on the wall. There's going to be so little we can do for sure. I'm sure that, education and stuff is really helpful, but long term, and I don't know if this is Lake Worth Beach's mantle to facilitate, but long term, I feel like the only way we're going to get something accomplished is if all of the municipalities that really have to deal with this group together and go to state attorney or Tallahassee or whoever to do something about it, because it was noticeable. And at least one person I spoke to has a emergency inhaler that they had to use, and she flat out said that if I knew it was going to be this bad, I would have left. I wouldn't have been around here.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that is an option for people, but it's unfortunate that they have to, resort to that. But again, I mean, can we solve this problem? Maybe we should add this to the list of things that are very difficult to enforce.
Well, that's why I usually leave during the 4th of July, because it's just, I have really bad PTSD, and it's 3 days of just no sleep for me. And so sometimes I try to get away from the noise. But I do know that Green Acres has something in place, and they are very enforceful with it. And when I've talked to people in Green Acres, they say that in the neighborhood, it's very minimal. So maybe we can get with, the people over in Green Acres and find out what they're doing, because they have PBSO as well.
Great. Great. What else? Surely there's more things that we can talk about.
Well, I'm
Uh,
sad that today is Sylvina's last day.
It's killing me.
I'm brokenhearted that more people didn't reach out to her when they found out she was leaving.
Yeah.
She's a big asset. I'm saddened that we continue to lose staff over morale issues. We wish her nothing but the best. She's been nothing but amazing since onboarding I'm speaking for myself, for me. And I'm praying to God that I can continue to stay as organized and on top of things, because Sylvina, as the executive assistant to the city commission for 12 years, there's never been an
She
election
knows.
year where she couldn't handle the things that were going on, and it's sad to lose her.
I'm very,
In
very
my
upset.
connection to the other city that's getting her, I tried to convince her to stay for at least another week, and that didn't work. So I'm very sad today. I'm kind of humbled, and not looking forward to coming into City Hall, but you know, I wish her nothing but the best in her and her family.
No, when I heard it, I cried. I was just, she's so fabulous. She's so good to us. She keeps us organized and up to date on things, and not having a, you know, she's going to be gone in the news. But I'm told that the clerk's office, thank you, Melissa, and your staff, is stepping in on a lot of the things that that Sylvina does for us. And I hope you don't have to do that for very long, but we really appreciate that you do that. Another, you know, the one thing I was you know, we're in election season. We all know that. And it's, you know, not my favorite time. But here's, you know, one of the things that the misinformation that I'm hearing things from people that I have allegedly done. I mean, things that are not, let's just not take it over me. I've heard that there was an audit that was due last year and it's late because of, you know, Carmen did that amazing change and hired Yannick to be our new finance director. He is, you know, is catching up with a lot of things that hadn't been done. There is it 42 pages, Jamie? There's a 42-page document that came out from the committee up in Tallahassee. We're fine. And the reason I bring this up is because I had an interview for an endorsement the other day, and well, aren't you losing all your ARPA funds, and aren't you losing, you know, all your CRA funds because everything's coming in late? I'm like, okay, so somebody's out there saying that. And I don't mind campaigning. I don't mind dealing with people, but I cannot help if people are lying. And that, I think, is a very unfortunate part of this process. And to hear nasty, untrue things being said about, and you know, I've gotten some email, you know, some texts from people as well, about things going on in the city and you know, why there's so many staff layout changes and stuff. Let's just stick to the truth, guys. And I'm not talking to this, you know, obviously any of you, because I'm not running a state. But I mean, in elections, I mean, let's not go all if you say it, it's true. Let's try to stick to the truth, because it's very disheartening. You can't control what someone else says, even if it's true or not. So
I'm glad you brought this up, Mayor. I addressed something today on social media.
yeah, I saw that.
And it was about Restoration Bridge no longer being in the city of Lake Worth Beach.
Right.
And as I said a couple weeks on the dais, I refrained from a conversation as somebody who attends Church by the Glades and who is an avid supporter for over 7 years. Our church is merging with another church that's taking over. And that is why Restoration Bridge is looking for a new home. The new church that's coming in, I guess it's not part of their business plan. They just announced Sunday to our congregation that this merge is going to be happening with another church. A lot of us aren't very happy about it because Church by the Glades just took on the Baptist church in Fort Lauderdale 2 or 3 months ago and merged with them to help them. And now they're kind of, you know, now we're the redheaded stepchild in Lake Worth Beach again, right? So, you know, there's a lot of mixed emotion from the congregation right now, feeling that we were kind of duped. And so I put on social media, because now it's public, that the reason this has nothing to do with the commission, this has nothing to do with nobody wanting them, except for the fact that the church is changing ownership, and the people who are coming in, that's not part of their business plan. I did hear when I was at the NAPC meeting that another church, and I think it's on Federal Highway in Eden Place, is considering doing a similar service, but not with Restoration Bridge. So I had to put that out there, because I get really tired as an elected, but also as a resident and a business owner, of people blaming us for every single thing that happens in the city. And, you know, I begged my pastor weeks ago to say something to stop the rhetoric and the noise. But I guess he was, you know, he had to do what he had to do, and his hands were tied by higher ups. So again, we're in an election year, and let's just try to be kind and you know, not spread untruths and not make the city look bad. I mean, we had nothing to do with that. So, you know, I'm thankful that I was able to finally say something because it went public. But I agree with you. It's, you know, let's just, I mean, at the end of the day, we're 7 square miles, we're 42,000 plus people, and we all live here together. And, you know, we have to stop the rhetoric and the rumors and the mistruths.
Yeah. And it's so easy to just to say something and it's not true.
If I could comment a little bit.
Sure.
I think, you know, some things, obviously the city government doesn't have any, you know, ability to do anything and involvement in. For instance, if the church is changing hands and they have a different idea about the services that they were providing under the previous church, that's not something that the city can do very much about, or probably isn't even very appropriate for us to say anything about as a city. However, one of my frustrations over the last several years has been that I have repeatedly asked for exactly that reason. Could the city please, on its website, put out factual information as we see issues coming along? Put out just the factual stuff so that at least as a commissioner or the mayor, you can steer people and say, here's what the official action is on the committee, on the city's part, or here's what, so that there is a place. And I got stonewalled on that for 2 years. And it's one of the things that was really a problem. The previous city manager never issued a press release in 2 years. That I'm very pleased to see that Commissioner or that Jamie Brown is bringing a very different approach to managing the city, which is sorely needed. Let's put information out, factual, in advance as much as possible to try to head off, some of the rumor mill in the city. We'll never get rid of all of it, but at least let's be clear.
It would have been helpful, Chris, though, if I hadn't, I wasn't aware of your frustration with that, about putting that on, being stonewalled. And like, if we have something that we think that we really believe in, Commissioner comments is the time to bring that up and get support for that. We could have helped you with that. Ronaldo? And I agree with putting it on there. I have no problem.
I mean, this is something I've brought up a lot too, and I've already had this conversation with Jamie. So, pleased to know that we'll have better response in time. Like there were specific examples that came up, right, when like the new owner of Jet Setters, Blue Front, whatever it's going to be called, blamed us when he hadn't filed an application was one. The one that really I think hurt me the most was when Canna closed down, because I know how difficult it is to get DOT to do anything, and I feel like Jamie moved literal mountains to get them to help us, to allow us to connect to the Lake Maine, and which, by the way, that work was completed and they did a great job. It was super quick, and I'm excited that John Rice Way now is not going to be the flooded mess that it will be. A long time coming, but things like that where I just felt like it is appropriate for the city to stand up and defend its staff and defend the work we do, and it certainly needs to happen. So unfortunately, we are in Florida. This is a nationwide problem, really, but we're never gonna completely stop the misinformation and the toxicity, right? Like that's just sadly a way of life these days, and we all encounter it, right? I saw something recently that pinned all of the Lake Worth deteriorating roads on me somehow, and so there's misinformation and lying and toxicness going all around for sure, and I definitely appreciate the effort of, what, we should be pushing back on it, and at the very least when it involves our staff especially and how things are run, we should be really quick to respond with a defense.
Yeah, no, and that's a touch, because sometimes if you start defending something, it breathes life into it. It becomes more of an issue than it should be. But going back, if there's something on our minds that we are not seeing get done, that we want to see done, and I'm talking for all 5 of us, bring it out into the public. If I've got a project, we talked about the daycare stuff, if there's, let's work as a unit to, each individual project going to one person, to the city manager. It's more helpful if we have consensus to let's go forward and do something like that. Speaking of which, okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that on that note, I agree. I've been asking for months for someone to show us whatever the agreement was with Head Start as a commission, to address it with the public, for legal to give us some insight on what happened, what was the final state. I asked Jamie to get with Glenn and let us all know. I'm like, because we're all in the dark. You know, we heard a bunch of noise. The lease was up. Now we know that they're there, but we don't know how they got there or how long they're staying there. And my only concern is, and I know that the work that's going to be being done is on the other side. I'm really praying that we can get all the parents to sign a liability waiver for the city's half. So we don't get potentially sued for anything that can happen during construction. But that was one thing I'm like, I've been torched. The city manager got
Now
torched.
somehow
Staff got
I have,
torched.
I have.
I said, and
people
none of
say-
us, I've never seen anything that ever got, all I know is that they're still there. So I know that, I mean, that's again, something that happened, Ronaldo, and it's like, okay, it happened, but we still don't, as a commission, we still haven't seen anything. At least I haven't.
I agree. And I was thinking about this just in terms of, I'm a little, the DOT, bringing up DOT. They've got 6th Avenue, I mean, they haven't fixed the bridge yet. Now they've got 6th Avenue started. Okay. And there's some talk of, they're going to redo Lake Avenue. We don't know when. And Jamie's hands up, and give me 1 second, Jamie. I just want to have a thought. And I'm going to ask you about Lake Avenue and the schedule for that. There's also this grand plan for Dixie Highway that they wanted to go a turn lane in the middle and a 1 lane in each direction. I was coming home last night and somebody was trying to make I would like to know the public's comment, the public's opinion about that change to Dixie Highway. And I would like to give them a voice and try to find out, maybe do a survey, maybe do something. Because if we speak, if way ahead of time, we get some real strong feedback from our citizens, maybe we could make a change if in fact we all think that is a poor design for our Dixie Highway. Jamie. Chris, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that having been involved, and Commissioner Diaz is certainly involved with the TPA, I was previously, so I have some experience with the difficulty of moving to complete streets, to safer streets. It sometimes is difficult to convey the information that actually slowing, say, speed limits or road diets or a variety of things can actually move traffic more efficiently and increase safety. So it's a little bit like how one goes about presenting the information. It should be presented by planning professionals who've dealt with roads and have some experience in how to present it, rather than saying, hey, are you for free beer on Tuesday? Of course I'm for free beer on Tuesday, but tell me a little bit more of the details. So yes, if we move to that, it needs to be in the context of, hey, how safe is this road right now? Our stretch is one of the least safe stretches. Are there alternative ways to manage that road that might increase safety and still get a lot of throughput of cars through it? So yes, on public input, but let's do it in a thoughtful, knowledgeable way as well.
Well, I mean, one-way Dixie Highway makes zero sense to a lot of people I've spoken to. You get behind a bus and you're going nowhere. You get behind somebody that just stopped to do something. If we could expand Dixie, sometimes the turn lanes are great. I love a turn lane, but when there's 2 aisles of traffic on either side, it works really well. So I want to listen to the people. None of us are road experts, but I mean, I'm not just dissing what you're saying, Christopher, but to what extent do we need an expert to tell us one direction each way is going to, when there's an accident on 95, you're backed up way past 10th Avenue now with 2 lanes of traffic. So that's just, I just might be alone in my thoughts, but I think common sense comes into it a little bit too.
Listening to the experts and learning from the experience they have other places and getting a thoughtful presentation strikes me as a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, I think you had your hand. Yes, you do have your hand up.
Yeah, and I see the time as well, so I'm going to be quick here. As far as the Dixie Highway and everything, keep in mind we do have that workshop coming up on the 22nd on mobility. So
Mhm.
that will
Okay.
be part of that discussion,
Perfect.
as part of that workshop. Also, you had mentioned the DOT project. So just this morning, I sent out another string of emails on, obviously, we have multiple DOT projects going on in the city. The Lake and Lucerne, I still have not gotten an answer as far as the, from B Street to Gulfview, the actual construction timeframe, because that actual construction schedule, it keeps sliding. So I need to get the latest, but more importantly is the actual sequence of construction. Where are they starting, on what street and on what end? Because they do have that list of events from us that we provided them back during their whole design process. They know about the Pride Parade, they know about St. Patrick's Day, what we do for holiday
Mhm.
parade, street painting, all that. So I want to make sure and confirm that they have all of the correct events, the correct
Thank you.
dates and all that as well. So I am on that. I also sent another string of emails for the roundabout project because you see there's MOT sitting there on that northwest property already. They haven't done anything with it yet, but I see it out there now. Again, Joan Olivia from the CRA and I were told that was March and then June, but now I see maintenance of traffic equipment sitting out there on the northwest property. So we need to get an idea on that as well. What is the date? Have they coordinated with the school district? Because as of a few weeks ago, they had not.
Right.
Bus schedules and routes and the kids walking and all. Again, I don't have that information yet. And that project includes work on Lake Osborne Drive, a crosswalk across Lake Osborne Drive, new sidewalk on Lake Osborne Drive. Again, are they starting at the circle? Are they starting at Lake Osborne? We need that sequence of construction. So just so everyone's aware, I'm on that as well. I just sent out another string of emails this morning on that. And then finally, Commissioner Malega, you brought up Head Start. Glenn and I did get together, and Glenn, I'll defer to you on this one. I don't know if we're talking about the first meeting in February, but I know you were going to be putting together a document because Carmen had basically sent out, or the previous city manager sent out an email, or a letter, kind of extending that contract. But Glenn and I had the conversation. We don't know if that was an actual legal document or not. We really need a real contract to do that extension. So Glenn, I'll kick it to you real quick.
As
Yep.
Jamie said, we'll probably just prepare an amendment, just extending it for whatever that period of time was, another 6 or so months. And then in the future, talk about what do you want to do on a long-term basis. But at least let's document properly what Carmen had sent out in that letter.
Great. Yeah, I mean, they knew their lease was up. I still don't understand that whole thing, but that's another story.
Thank you for following through that. And
Yeah.
again, my concern is making sure that when the construction starts, that we have been released of all liability from staff and city and kids that are there, because we do not need any reason for a lawsuit in the city right now. Thank you. Thank you both for working on this.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, we've gone a little bit past our time. Any other burning things before we sign off? Nope. MLK Day, big day. Breakfast in the morning, march at 4:30, dinner at Sacred Heart. I believe they need some volunteers. And we'll all step up, I'm sure. So on that note, have a great weekend, everyone. And see
Feel
you.
better, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were sick. I'm sorry. I missed that part. I hope you feel better. See you Tuesday.